Here we go. Hi, Dr. Rob.
Hey, Tammy, I, as always, am honored to be in your presence.
It's always lovely. It's weird for us. We only get to see each other on these every 2 weeks now, and so it's always a little bit of a disconnect. I don't get to see him as often as I did,
Well,
but
it's weird because when you and I had jobs that put us in conferences, all that, and we didn't work on the same company, we saw each other all the time
we did.
pre-COVID,
Yes,
right?
yeah,
And now we
yes,
work
yeah.
together, and we never. Anyway, you guys don't hear our problems. Um, why don't we go
So,
ahead and get
yes, I'm going
going?
to read the first question. I put it in answered. My husband recently went through our program, and though things are better, many issues remain. Mostly, he felt if he could just come home and get and meshed with me enough, everything would be better. When I drew boundaries around myself, he began struggling a lot. It has been culminated in 2 masturbation slips and 3 masturbation relapses in less than 3 weeks. After the last one, I really lost it and was railing on him for him not being committed to sobriety or recovery. He answered that him going to 12-step groups and doing outreach didn't help him with emotions or fear, abandonment, rage, etc. That only masturbation makes those feelings better, but that he's digging into that with his therapist. What's your professional opinion on what we are going through, and what's his next step should be? He does therapy with a CSAT once a week, and he goes to both of our alumni meetings and one in-person meeting a week. He casually reads recovery material and journals in between. Oh, goodness.
Well, the first thing that comes up for me is not very, professional, but liar, liar, pants on fire. So it comes up for me. So there are some people who go to treatment and they learn. I'm sorry, Tammy, did I interrupt you? You were going to say something.
No, I was thinking that I'm nodding my head. I'm like, yep, yep.
So there are some people who come to treatment and it becomes a really good opportunity. They game it, they play with it, they don't really take it. They have learned basically how to look like they're in it, but they're not really fully committed. And I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and you don't know how much. And but they're really not inside. They're just sort of checking the boxes. And so I don't want to go into the personal issues. Maybe I won't go as much into that, but um, the masturbation, look, drinking would have made Tammy feel better. I know it, but she'd be dead now. Sexually acting out for me would have been great if I'd continued, but I would have died of AIDS a long time ago. So I'm so, so sorry. But if you have this disorder, you don't get to use sex as a source of soothing. You use sex as a form of connection. And so for him, he's framed it right there, which I think I got that right, Tammy, which is, well, I'm going through hard times basically, and I'm just using it to make myself feel better. Well, that's why drug addicts do drugs. So, and then it gets turned on you when you bring up things that you feel shame about. So, I will let Tammy talk to you more about boundaries, but I feel like you're being gaslit. That's what I feel like.
Yeah, yes. And we are supposed to be uncomfortable. Like that is the point, because otherwise we will keep acting out. Like it makes it feel better. So he's going immediately to the I want to feel better despite negative consequences. Trust me, he has a plan. He has an aftercare plan that was designed to give him the support. One
Right.
meeting a week. I love our alumni group meetings. Honestly, I cry. I don't go on those very often, but every time I'm on there, I cry because like people are sharing how they're really using the information that they're learning to change. And what I hear is somebody who checked off the boxes. You even own. He came home and wanted to make. I'm home. Let's go right back to the way it was. I want to be all better. I want to be really connected with you, not go. What do you need as my partner? I hear your healthy boundaries, um, and and drawing healthy boundaries are for your safety. That's not punishment against him, and you can't be his, like, well, if I don't masturbate, I want you to take care of me so that I feel better. Like, if we're uncomfortable, that's data so that we learn to reach out. He has a whole outer circle of things that he can choose to do. But what I hear is a guy who is not leaning into his recovery program and really doing the work. So I'm going to, like Dr. Rob said, I'm going to tell you, lean into your healthy boundaries. Those are for your safety. And regardless of what he does or doesn't do, you can be okay. And I really believe that, the more you do that, the more he bumps up against those boundaries. He's either going to go, it's time for me to get my stuff together and really do the work. He has an aftercare plan, that is unique for him. So, I mean, they're not pre-printed and handed out to everybody. It's like each person has one that is designed for them. I bet it's tucked in his workbook, stuck in the back of the closet or someplace I don't think it's front and center. So to
You
me,
know,
it's like
Tammy,
checking off a few boxes. Go
when
ahead.
we worked with Dr. Carnes at various points, which is really an honor for me and I think, an amazing experience for you. Um, the One of the things Dr. Carnes, is sort of my role model and leader in the field, said was, 60 to 70% of people um, succeed with their recovery if they actually do the very things that are on here. And the numbers go up much lower for those who don't, because the point is that it's not just that they're there, Tammy, and I hear you, but on some level it's about, I committed to this. Am I gonna, and I have this disorder, and I went to the doctor and they said we have to take these pills twice a day, and then I don't do it and I start feeling sick. And then I say, what's the problem? And the problem is you're not taking the pills. So the people that we work with, and I would ask him to go back to his aftercare plan. We give them I don't want to go on about this too much, but we give them a prescription. So, and it doesn't include, oh, well, masturbation when I'm, feeling uncomfortable is fine. So anyway, I feel for, oh, there is one more thing I wrote down, because Tammy, I write things down. I said, what is it? What do you mean his therapist is digging into it? We don't dig into things in this field. We confront, we challenge, we contain, we challenge dishonesty. I don't dig into why I want to lie or why I've lied or what it means in terms of my child. And we can look at all that later. But while I am actively acting out in ways that are going to hurt myself and my family, my therapist shouldn't be digging into anything. They should be kicking my butt. Or feel free to send them to our residential treatment program. We will do a revamp with him. We will have a week with him. No, I'm not trying to be light, but if he does what's there, he has a much higher percentage of healing. He's too busy blaming other situations. So,
Well, and looking to do the same thing that he did before. Like he's going like, oh, I'm uncomfortable. Like yes, emotions are uncomfortable because we've soothed them all away. We've numbed them out. We've escaped. And so going like, yeah, I'm uncomfortable. What is that telling me? I'm going to choose to do something that's in my outer circle, not go right to running back, justifying. I mean, like this is such massive denial again, justifying that, oh, well, I'm uncomfortable and I should never have to feel uncomfortable. Life can be uncomfortable. I just said to somebody the other day, nobody has ever died of uncomfortable feelings. I mean, that I know of. Like, I've not ever
well,
seen
unless
anybody
they
that
knew
undied.
that someone was coming along to kill them and then they got killed. But other than
Yeah, but
that,
that's not dying from uncomfortable.
I
Like if I'm
know, but I have to
uncomfortable in
live
my
with it.
feelings, yes, it's like I'm uncomfortable in my feelings. What can I choose to do that would be a positive thing rather than like I bet he didn't say, I'm really uncomfortable with my feelings, so I'm going to go masturbate. No, you found out afterwards. So I could go on and on about this. I'm not going
Well,
to, I promise.
but actually, I think there's a great teaching lesson in here, which I think you're looking at him and saying, why aren't things going better? And he struggled a lot when I drew boundaries. But you also said it has now culminated. Like again, it was an obvious conclusion that the fights, the disagreements, the upset was going to lead to your setting boundaries is why he went to masturbate. And that's not true. He could have gone for a walk. He could have reached out to one of us. And then to say this part too, I'm sorry I have to go there, Tammy. He answered that going to 12-step programs and doing outreach. And by the way, everything we work on is about social connection. 12-step programs, forgive me, Tammy, are not just about the structured work. It's also people coming together and really, all together with this at the same issue at the same time and supporting each other. So anyway, I don't go into that too far, but he has these emotions and fear that going to the meetings, in other words, following his aftercare plan, really he doesn't like. They're not comfortable with. But masturbation, he does like. So I trust your feelings. I wonder, Tammy, we don't need to go in any further, but this would be somebody who would be a really good person to go to the women's empowerment
Yes, I will put the link in.
intensive.
I was thinking that too, because all we do is we focus on the women. We don't focus on him. But I'm glad you said that too about, he doesn't work on his emotions of fear, abandonment, rage, etc. That means he's not sharing in a meeting that he's struggling with, emotions of fear, abandonment, rage, which is what you are supposed to do in meetings, is share where you really are, not just, if all I'm doing is sitting in a meeting and I'm just looking at things and I'm not engaging, You get out of all of this stuff what you put into it. And I hear somebody who is very light on doing any actions that would show things would be different. But I will put the link for the Empowered Women's Retreat. It'll be August 15th through 18th. We would love to see you there. We would, support you. The healing for the partners, regardless of what he's doing or not doing, regardless of if you stay or go. I mean, all of those things, it's for you. So.
And that question is so loaded for healing, because the first thing it really says is, I'm going through this and I set boundaries. Did my taking care of myself lead to his behavior? And that's such codependency talk. It blames the victim. So yeah, I love, isn't there, I'm not trying to sell stuff really, but isn't there Betrayed Partners Workshop? I mean, a place where this person, anyway, I'll leave it to you, Tammy.
Yes, I just put the Empowered Women's Retreat. And yes, I mean, he could be joining our work groups for, Out of the Doghouse or even Sex Addiction 101. But the Betrayed Partner work group starts again May 21st. And I just put the link for that in as well. So, okay,
questions.
Next question. Male SA here, married 43 years, currently separated. Discovery was June of 2021, formal therapeutic disclosure in November of that year. I'm working the steps, attend and share daily in SA meetings and phone calls. Real good SA literature, attend weekly couples therapy with a CSAT. We do well together when we're with family, except for several lustful thoughts and sneaking to skinny dip once in our pool. I've been sexually sober since discovery. I also have a history of verbal abuse. The last episode was October of 22. I believe my recovery program is good, but my wife and I wonder what is missing because I keep doing things that cause her to feel unsafe, which is a pattern, like not texting her right away when I return to the motel, my current residence, and then become defensive when she asks me about it. Although I love my wife, consider her my best friend, and want to make her feel safe because of this continued pattern that she considers psychologically and emotional abusive. She is becoming indifferent towards me. Any suggestions on what I can do?
Well, Tammy, do we know the part that sort of took me by surprise was we're not living together? And I was wondering, do we have a clarity about if that's 6 weeks or 2 years, or because I couldn't figure that part
I
out?
get the impression that it's been a while because of just
Okay.
this, so this feels like it's a
Mm,
while, but so let's assume it's been a while. And I don't know what the plan is or who you
well,
have a CSAT, but what is the plan? What is she looking for, to connect, and it says they're fine when they're with family, which sounds like as long as there's other people making things more neutral, we're okay.
right,
So
you understand that. I have to say that I don't I don't like this being put it back on you. At this point, February 2021, that was 3 years ago. You're doing the best you can from what you say, and we don't know that no one is perfect, but basically you've said you're doing what you need to do. Lustful thoughts are not necessarily related to recovery. Tammy may think about having a drink. That doesn't mean that it's affected. Sorry, do you mind my using
no,
you
I
that
don't
way? I'm
care.
sorry.
And that's just one of many things that I've struggled with. So it's all good. So
Welcome to the club. So anyway, I think you feel good about yourself. You feel like you're doing the right things. Um, but it sounds like you're climbing up a hill you're never going to go up on. And there's a certain point. Well, let me just say this, and I say this a lot. The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. And so once someone is furious at you, you listening to this, you guys out there, when you are furious, it means you're still in the game. You're hurting and you want it to make sense and you're never let go of us. But trust me, when you're sitting and saying, well, I'm not sure, I'm kind of tired of hurting and I'm thinking about maybe, that's when things have really ended. So I don't hear, and I'll say one more thing, I don't hear any movement toward moving together. Like, we're working with a therapist, we talked to our pastor, we made these moves that would help. She loves you, you love her. I mean, there's no plan here. There's feelings, is how I feel about you, but I don't see anyone moving forward. So I don't know, Tammy, what do you think?
well, yeah, and I'm going to get in the weeds a little bit with this. It's like, I do things that make her feel unsafe, like not texting her right away when I return to the motel. If you're living separately, like at some point, I would ask her, what are you seeking? I'd be curious. What are you seeking that you want to know that I'm at the motel? Because, if she's concerned that you had a car accident on the way, that's one thing. If she's concerned that you're going to stop and act out on the way, you can act out at the motel, so I think I'd want more data on that. Like what is it she's seeking, and is there another way? Or do you
Right.
put a note on your door as soon as you walk in, text her? I mean, there's practical things, but I'm with Dr. Rob. When somebody's moving away, um like they're indifferent, that is challenging. And I think it's also, like you said, I keep doing things that make her feel unsafe. You mentioned one, and if you know all of them, that's interesting. Um, but it's also like it. I was talking to somebody the other day, and it's like, people say, "Oh, I'm triggered. I'm triggered. You triggered me," and I'm like, my triggers are my challenge. What is the data telling me, and what do I need to do? So for her, if it's upsetting to her, what is it she's seeking, and be very specific about it. And even, like, I'm worried about you because you might have a car accident on the way home. Okay, I appreciate that. That's good information. If it's, I'm worried about you acting out, like I said, if you're not living together, you can do that any old time. So challenging. And I would also go, are you seeing couples? This would be like, are you seeing a couples therapist? This is one of those times we recommend that. And one more thing, Dr. Rob does a one-time 2-hour expert consultation, and our clinical director, Erin, offers a 90-minute one. And I'm wondering, because it feels like you guys are stuck. And so if you're both working with qualified professionals, maybe both of your qualified professionals with both of you would be great and help you get unstuck. But, like, if there's no plan, like, you guys can keep going in this pattern, for a long time, and you're missing out on either being together or being on a different path alone. And I don't, whatever is right for the two of you is, no judgment on any level.
Well, I have to say more, but when people send us long questions, they got to know that we're going to talk more. Where do I go after a 12-step meeting? Great, we can do that. But these are complex issues. And so there's also something in here that I heard that we enjoy each other with family. And I think that tells a lot, especially you've been together, what, 43,
43
53,
years.
60 years,
Yeah.
probably, longer than I've been alive. You have been, well, maybe not that, but you've been together a very,
They've
very
been
long
married
time.
43 years.
And, at that age, I think you kind of need to decide on some level, do I want to shit or get off the pot? And that brings up your boundaries. I see you completely. It's so funny, Tammy, excuse me, funny, but its partners are so focused on the addict. And in this case, you're looking to her to decide how you can live your life going forward. And I think it sounds like you're already getting a lot of information. And we say in my field, and I'm not saying things are going to move forward, but this feels a bit like a plea, like how can I and what can I? And, I think you're getting the message. And I was just going to say, not taking an action is an action. So if someone doesn't actually move forward towards something, but they say, I'm kind of thinking about it, their actions speak to, but I'm not really doing that. So anyway, Tammy, I don't mean to go on forever. Let's,
Well, no, and I was thinking, like, you guys, you get along well with family. That good. You can show up,
right,
for family
right,
events and not have it be, a train wreck. Great. But that doesn't mean, you have to, stay living separately, but
right.
together, at some point it's like, yeah, like, a decision always is grief.
Mhm.
You're always giving up something, and that's the rub. And so staying in the, straddling the fence, not really in, not really out, but you're also missing out. So at some point, making a choice, is, then you can move forward one way or the other.
So Tam, I'm going to add another one because I'm a
Okay.
therapist. I think of all this stuff. Why are you living in a motel? Because to
I
me, a
know.
motel implies short term, but then things are going to go here. You're living like someone has an expectation that things are going to change and then they're going to go forward with their life. And, I think maybe finding a roommate for a little while or finding a place that belongs to you. So there isn't this kind of hope that, well, I'll have a home if, and by the way, she will also see whatever it means to her that you're moving back into your life and you're not depending on her decisions. Um, it's not about what's right or wrong. It's about what you can live with.
Yes. Okay, so the next question, Dr. Rob, I am the betrayed. What if both are working with therapists, etc., but the betrayed doesn't feel safe, trust, or love and wants out of the relationship? The betrayer is convinced that all can be restored to a loving relation or marriage. The betrayed is saying it can't be. Is there a middle ground? That's a great question. It's complex too. Thanks for asking this. One thing that isn't in here, Dr. Rob, is like how long they've been at this. If this has been like a month, or if this has been 3 years, you know. So maybe some perspective on it based on varying time frames. So thoughts?
Well, I have very simple and kind and loving thoughts, which are sometimes therapists will write me and they'll say, what is the right way to practice EMDR? And I will point out to them that they can go online and there are 1,000 things they can find in practicing EMDR. And I think that, and I really, really want you to hear this with love and respect, but you're coming to me anyway with a question that you could resolve without me. You know what, if you were both going to support groups and 12-step programs, if you were engaging with people who are in this room, you wouldn't have these questions for us because you would already know, oh, this is what most other couples do, and this is how women feel. And so really being able to dive into, because this feels to me like, and maybe I'll say it in a really very different way, you feel alone. To me, this feels very alone, kind of like, what do we do? Give us the answer. But it just also feels, yeah, very lack of connection. And if you just give me the answer, then we can do this. But there is no answer. The answer is getting the help of all the people who are struggling around you and growing. So anyway, thanks, Tammy. I know when I'm on and on tonight. I'm sorry.
No, and I have a little more concrete answer. To me, if I don't like the relationship being restored to, you know, a loving marriage. There was problems that were, you know, so when people say, I want to go back to the way it was, I'm like, no, you don't. There was lies and deceit and denial and all of those things. So no, you know, could a new relationship be created? Could a loving relationship be created? Yes, we see that all the time, you know, with people, if they're willing to do the work. What I hear is we are both working with therapists. It doesn't say qualified therapist for this work. I'm going to be graciously assuming that it is, but I don't hear all the other things that the betrayer is doing to help restore a relationship. You know, if it's just I'm going to the therapist and hoping that you know that you'll love me again and we can go back to how it was, then no, that would be, you know, why would you trust that? You know, like, you are looking for actions that show that this person is moving forward on a different path, and that you can see that the two of us can have a healthy relationship that is built on trust, you know, and it can, honestly, you know, you'll never be able to trust completely because you know that your betrayer can hurt you. You know, they've now shown that. You used to think this person loves me and would never hurt me, and now you know that they will. That does not mean that you can't create space for a relationship with honesty and integrity. We're seeking integrity. I love that name, and I share that often with people, that we strive for that personally as a company, and we help, you know, people move towards that as well. It's not obviously from the first question. It isn't like flip a switch and now they're all better. But to me, this is more complex in that what is the betrayer doing to, you know, on a daily basis that shows you that, you know, he's working towards being a different person. You don't want the old version back. So that's my thought.
Shall we?
Sex addict, 8 months into recovery, married and betrayed by my wife. How can, oh wait, okay, so wait. Sex addict, 8
And
months into recovery, married
wife.
and betrayed my wife. Thank you. I was like, I'm reading something wrong. Thank you. How could have had intense connection feelings with random strangers, women I acted out with, and even women I dated, had flings with before I was married? The feeling is just the same as when I am with my wife too, intense physical connection that made me feel great. Although my wife, there is also other feelings of security and safety. It's like I always have been emotionally unavailable. And I think this is like continued. So continually not having needs boundaries honored by your partner inevitably leads you to detaching and becoming indifferent, not honoring her needs, and sends a message to her that she's not important to you. No, that feels disconnected. So let's go back to, so the question is, how could I have had intense connection feelings with random strangers, women I acted out with, you know, and then I feel like it's the same with my wife, you know, but I also feel secure in everything with my wife. So
Well, I don't know, sometimes you get a spidey sense, Tammy, and I feel like this is a young couple. Like maybe these are people who are, still figuring some of it out because um oftentimes in a relationship there's all this sexual and intensity in a couple, and you can't get enough of each other, and over time that can fade, and then that excitement about maybe I'm not even excited about them anymore, that's when those fears for some people can come in. So regardless of that, I think and I say this a lot, so please excuse my saying it again, but please write it down. Intimacy is not the same as intensity. And so you will never, ever, ever really be able to find that newness, that safety, that whatever in an affair partner. Remember, and Tammy says this a lot, you don't have to you don't have to clean the laundry with that person. You don't have to talk about, gee, I got to go on a trip and I'm not feeling well. You don't have to pick up you don't have to do any of that. You can go to some really nice place or a crappy place and have some fun. And then you both go back to your individual responsibilities. So let me say it this way. This is what comes up for me in this story, Sam. I'm very moving very too quickly. Is I think we think about what the best part of what we're going to do is going to be like, and we don't think about after. And I think for you, and I don't know why I'm bringing that up, it just comes up for me, is you get really, really focused on this will be so exciting, and this will be so this, and we have this connection, and we're on a business trip, but there's that little nudge over into, and after that, I'm going to feel like, and going home with my spouse, I'm going to feel like. Um, and by the way, yeah, intensity is not about intimacy. A lot of us can perform, but that doesn't mean we're emotionally connected. And by the way, your spouse feels that way. She gets it, that you're not fully there. She probably tried to tell you, and you probably said, I don't want to, leave me alone or whatever. But ask her, does she feel like you really emotionally are responsive? And, she'll tell you no, and then you'll blame her. So anyway, they're learning the ways of the world here, Tammy. What did you want to say?
Well, to me, it's a facade, it's fantasy that you had an intense connection feelings with random strangers. No, you had intense sex with random strangers.
Right.
It could be high risk. You had no emotional connection with those people, and you were setting aside your spouse. You had no feelings for your spouse while you're off having this intensity. So, yes, emotionally unavailable, sometimes emotionally, well, I'd say mostly emotionally immature. But I mean, that's addiction, is like we are focused on ourselves. You only care about, I'm going to go have this intense thing, this intense encounter with some random stranger, and I'm sure you are, like, yes, it's secure and safety with your wife. Guess what? She does not feel like you are secure and safe for her. Like, so there's a really lopsided, relationship right now because of your behavior. So a lot, if you're 8 months into recovery, hopefully you're actually doing the work, because lots of people go, I'm 3 days into recovery. And I'm like, yeah, no, you're abstinent. Just not acting out is abstinence. Recovery is actually doing the work. We have a Sex Addiction 101 online work group that starts again June 3rd. If you haven't already done that, please do. It's on the website. I put the work group link in the chat too. So, but the more you do, but your spouse, I hope, is sitting there watching and going, and until you show me with your actions that you are going to be someone that I can put some degree of trust in, not 100%, then I hope she's holding, safe boundaries. I'm saying she, I don't know, but I hope she's holding safe boundaries for herself, so that she's taking care of her. Because you didn't, and like, again, this is not judgment or shame. This is, you did you were out, having intense connections with people, and she's home, thinking that
Right.
she's got a spouse that loves and cares about her. So opportunities, these, recovery is a massive opportunity for emotional growth, emotional connection. Like, I think you haven't even touched on what real emotional connection, security, and safety is, because you've always, you're holding yourself over here. Like, you're only sharing part of you, even with your spouse. Oh yeah, it's his wife. So, even
I,
with your spouse. So you have an opportunity. Yeah.
I'm just in my therapy mode tonight. So one of the things that comes up for me is the feeling is just the same as when I am with my wife. By the way, I wouldn't tell her that.
I wouldn't
Um,
either.
I don't think that would go well. Intense physical connection that made me feel great. The feeling is just the same for me. When I am in my with my wife, I am having this intense physical connection that makes me feel great. Have you talked to her about how she's feeling? Have you talked to her whether she feels emotionally connected? Has she talked to you about maybe she just feels like she's on some ride that she can't get off? I don't know. But it doesn't sound like there's a lot of communication. There's a lot of me and how I feel and a lot of how do I figure this out? And you've only been doing this for 8 months. I mean, and I hate sounding like an old person, but you can be 2 or 3 years into this and be really a role model and have got, you don't have to be my age, but I hear questions and not solutions and not actions. By the way, there's one more thing. I think you feel bad somewhere inside there. You feel badly about what you're doing in your relationship, but you're more questioning it than just making sure it doesn't happen again. By the way, how much does she know about? I guess I want to know that too. Anyway,
But
that's
don't
what
go
I got.
tell her, please. Those are called
No, no, no,
vomit
don't.
disclosures where
No,
you go,
no.
I want to tell you everything
Right.
so I feel better. Yeah,
I told all
I
those
feel
other women
better.
I love them too. That
Yes.
kind of,
Oh
yeah,
God,
don't do
it's
that.
horrible. Yeah. So, okay. So this next one is more a
Tammy,
comment on your indifference. You know, when you're talking about
who, me?
indifference, you know, remember a
Where,
little bit ago you said
give me
a
a time.
message
Oh,
was
go.
so this is more of a comment. Continually not having your needs boundaries honored by your partner inevitably leads you to detaching and becoming indifferent. Not honoring her needs sends a message to her that she's not important to you. And yes, you're right. And there are partners though that will hang in there. Like it's unbelievable how much willingness they have to hang in there and hope. And so, but I hear you. And yeah, but as soon as partners, you know, as soon as one of you starts moving away to indifference, you know, there is less likely the opportunity for healing in that particular relationship. Then it's more if you have, you know, kids, how do you co-parent? How do you navigate, you know, the life space afterwards, you know, and not do more harm? So,
I
but
just, one of the tricks they teach us in therapy school is that it's not unusual for a couple, not often happens, but every once in a while, a couple will come in with shared issues to try to work out. And what I realize is that they're really there for someone to witness the end of their relationship. And one
um,
partner didn't really feel the strength to say it, and they were worried about the other one. So they came where there'd be support. And so, I don't hear a motion forward in this situation. And, I think you're already feeling it. In fact, it even feels like you're defending yourself a little bit. Like, well, why wouldn't I feel this way? And, of course, who wouldn't? So, where do you get your needs met that make you feel good for yourself? Who can make you feel important? And I feel very sad in your situation. I can feel your sadness. So, I'm
well,
sorry.
and I just put in the chat. So we have drop-in groups on Thursdays for betrayed partners,
Right.
women who are moving on alone. Separately, we have a group on Fridays for male addicts that are moving on alone, whether it's you've left, or you're in the
Or even
process of
questioning,
leaving.
right?
Yeah,
Questioning.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
It's a safe space where it isn't like we're just focused on reuniting, you know, fixing the relationship,
And can I
but it's
remind
like I'm
everyone that we
considering.
don't
Yeah,
charge, we don't charge for these. All of these are therapists who volunteer their time for help addicts, to help partners, to help couples. So I'm sorry, Tammy, I just want people to think that, we're trying to sell them something. It's really, we created it all for free. So,
yeah. Like this webinar, this is free. The drop-in
oh,
groups are
we're
free.
free.
Podcasts are free. So yeah, yeah. So yeah, and then there are paid things like the work groups or the Empowered Women Retreat or
Or
treatment.
coming and
Like
facing me in
yeah,
residential.
it isn't just Dr. Rob. There's a whole
No,
team working. Yes, they're expert team. So
they're mini
okay,
me's.
they're not. They're
I
like
know.
Aaron, who's on the. No, it is not
They're
just
not.
Dr. Rob or mini Dr.
They're
Robs. There's
anti-me's, anti-me's. Anyway, let's get to work.
no, yeah. Well,
Stop
no,
that,
I'm
Tammy.
gonna. Well, no, but it's a team, and they all bring different perspectives, and that's the beauty of it. Is they're seeing the clients with from different things, and they're picking up on different things. So it really is hugely beneficial that there's a whole team. So okay,
Well, we choose some of those roles, Tammy. you know, Aaron or one of the other staff may be the nurturing, you know, good cop, and someone like me might be the tough dad, and you know, depending on the situation. So
Yes.
we do always follow where you are.
Yes.
Treatment isn't just marching through. Really, as sorry, Tammy mentioned aftercare plans. Everyone gets their own. You know, there's not, Tammy loves this. There's no cookie cutter work. By the way, nothing I love more than doing residential work, and I want to retire now. It's tough work. So anyway, let's keep
I
going, Tammy.
don't.
We have more.
I get so much gratitude from hearing people, that are moving forward with
Oh,
help. So I actually do. So
can I
not
just say
wanna.
one thing about
Yeah.
that? Because I really do. There aren't many things that bring me to tears. Two things are recently. One was reading a spouse's letter in group and hearing the amount of pain that this person was in and how much their vows had meant to them and how much they would have stuck through if they just had you know, all that stuff. And it just broke. I actually cried when I was reading the letter for the client. Um, but what was I going to say? The
What's
other
the other thing
thing,
that makes you cry?
yeah, the other thing that makes me cry is that letter that we got. And I wonder, I mean, that really, the whole thing touched me. And I want to mention it, not just in terms of, you know, things that I've done or whatever, but we've created a whole space. That person said, "Where do I go?" And so, do you mind just mentioning that? Because I mean, it just broke my heart. And these are my favorite letters. Are they favorite, favorite, favorite?
So I want to be careful that I take things and not, share anything. But
Oh
but yeah,
no.
yeah, we get letters. I mean, I get emails all the time, with people grateful for our resources, that there's a free space, low cost residential treatment, that we have expert materials, because there's so much garbage out there on the internet, that to have a safe place to come, that you can get the help that you need,
So I,
is
I
meaningful.
want to
So
just jump in, and I'll stop in a second. But you and I got a letter from someone who wrote me and said that they were in another country or whatever. And this is my favorite. And they said thought they were a crazy person and they thought they were a bad person. And then they had started listening to the podcast and they started reading and they realized I'm just a broken person and I'm not hope. Do you remember that letter? And this
yes, I
person was,
do. Yeah.
and that one makes me, you know, it makes me really tearful. Is that we're the opportunity to learn something and change people's lives makes that we'll never know. We'll never talk to this person. And why did they write, Tammy? Could you help me find resources? We have resources for free. So the whole thing just makes me so joyful. And reading that letter, thanks for letting me say it.
Yeah.
It still makes me tear up. So
Yeah. I talked to, it's Monday. I've already talked to multiple people outside the US, including some, I'm not going to say where, but some like rarer countries that I don't always talk to. It's not just US and Canada. So yeah,
so
like this
questions.
work matters. Yeah. Well, that's what I was trying to get to. Almost 4 years
I'm so
post
sorry.
D-Day. Filed for divorce 4 months ago, and husband moved out. He is finally embracing recovery, and we're both seeing partner CSATs and preparing for formal therapeutic disclosure. My husband struggles immensely with emotional connection, and I have boundaries in place to not have conversations, dialogues without the connection. We do Friday weekly check-ins that rarely are connected. It feels like he is check marking boxes. How do I disengage from the conversation without being rude or shaming? Hmm.
Well, I like that. Well, the first question, and this isn't the absolute answer, is how do you feel? You know, are you uncomfortable? Because you have to, I mean, if you're saying I don't feel comfortable in the conversation, I do want to disconnect, or I don't feel my boundaries are, you know, I would just really ask you, what does your nowhere say inside of you? Do I want to be in this conversation? Um, the the checking in. So maybe, you know, and I don't want to say this, I'll give you a few psychological opportunities. I don't know, were you filed a divorce or they filed a divorce? I mean, the other person, I don't really get that. But the point is, you're going away. And this is not a time I want to feel close to you and have intimate conversations with you. And, you know, whether you're the one who's going away or I'm the one who's going away, we're still not going to be together anymore. And so for him, you expect him to be, you know, having a connection with you, which is really the question. Why don't we have a connection? It's not going to be possible. I mean, no matter what you're going through, no matter what's happened, you're grieving. He's grieving. You're going through a process. And that may not, I can certainly remember a period, but I did not want to talk to the person who decided did not want to be with me. It took a really long time. So I don't know, Tammy, do you think,
I
and
have so much on this one. Like, I think she filed for divorce.
right. What?
So
Yeah.
why are you preparing for formal therapeutic disclosure? That isn't even
Are they
recommended.
really?
Yes, it says, and we're preparing for formal therapeutic disclosure.
Oh, no, no, no,
The
no.
purpose of that is to set a foundation for moving the relationship together. So if you filed for this feels like a massive disconnect. So maybe I'm completely missing something, but if you filed for divorce, now he's suddenly doing some recovery work. So then it's like, oh, okay, but like I hear you going like, no, I don't really want to be connected. Why are you doing Friday check-ins? That's another. What is the point of that? So to me, it would be like if that's important to the two of you, it's not about him. If this is important to the two of you, then it's like, here's the template we're going to use for the check-in. And I would even say, when we have these, I often feel uncomfortable. So if it starts going down this path, then I'm just going to say I'm going to sign off now. And then you just do. Like, it's not about you being rude. It's called taking care of yourself. And shame is, you can't shame him. He can feel shame, and that's on him. So, so you don't have to be hostile. You can just say, when this happens, I will just simply say, I'm going to sign off now, and preface it at the beginning of the call, etc. But I'm really curious, why are you doing formal therapeutic
Right.
disclosure? Why, like if there's a whole bunch of things, kids and all that to navigate, and the couples, the therapists are helping you navigate, kind of mediating, through the process. But formal therapeutic disclosure is not recommended when there's a divorce pending,
Yeah, I
communication. Talk to your
understand.
attorneys. What do you really need to talk about?
Well, I understand that the need and the desire to know what's happened in my relationship doesn't go away because you're separating. I still want to know what you did and who did you do it with. So I understand the desire of the
Yeah, but
spouse. No,
for the
hold
formal
on.
therapeutic
I'm just saying
disclosure, I gotcha.
I can
Okay.
understand. It's like, well, just because we're not going to be together, what's happened and who was it with? And, of course, but the reality is, and this is what I'm going to lose some spouses for sure. Number one, you opted out of that information when you filed for divorce, because there's not a single client I've ever worked with who I would encourage to do a disclosure, which is basically like handing every sin he ever did against his family to a divorce to your divorce lawyer. It's not okay. And I'm sorry, spouses, but if you leave us and you divorce us, you do give up the opportunity, because as Tammy said, it's not a punishment. It's not we grow together. It's to simply establish a situation of now, before we move forward. This is the purpose of disclosure. Believe me, I was there since the beginning. The purpose is to make sure there's no more trash underneath, no things that haven't been talked about, no things that the fear may linger, but the facts are on the table. And from there, a relationship can begin to slowly grow in truth and honesty, because there's no secrets. There may be secrets later, but at least when we started here, we did not have secrets. And so it is only the purpose of going together. So, I don't mean to be sarcastic or negative, but I want to be very clear. I would never, never ask somebody to give disclosure to someone who's divorcing them, if nothing else, because it can affect children. It can affect, by the way, just to say it, judges don't care who I slept with. They don't care. They don't care. Are the children safe? Am I going to be safe? Have I treated them well? So I hear a lot of spouses come into court and, he did this to me and he's been sex workers, and that isn't what judges care about, just to save yourself some sweat. Did he pick them up at school? Did he make sure they were fed? That's the things that, even though we're really angry, the judges are not. So I spewed out a lot there, Tammy, but you got to stop me.
No, it's all relevant. And so to me, this is, what do you need to do for self-care? And, like if you're dreading that Friday phone call, why are you doing it?
Right.
Yeah, be I would be curious with myself. What am I looking for, with any of this? And here's another misperception with formal therapeutic disclosure. I hear this all the time, and it's not valid. But partners will go, "Well, I need to know everything, and then I can heal." And I'm going like, "You can heal regardless of if you know everything, and you can probably heal better. It was bad enough that you're filing for divorce. It was bad enough, but yeah, knowing more gory details, knowing more is not, doesn't necessarily help." And he's finally doing recovery work after 4 years. Whether you even got the information you're seeking. I don't know. So I would really, I would be really asking some hard questions about what do I really need in this? And the Friday phone calls may be a pass. So
There's another piece of craziness in here, and I don't mean to use that word, but I completely relate to this, was he is finally regressing recovery, and
oh,
we are going
she
to be
says that.
separating.
Yes,
And I
she
thought,
it was I stalled the divorce when he decided to embrace recovery.
right, and I
Well,
think
it's
there,
4 months, so be careful. Yeah.
right, too soon maybe, but I think in a lot of relationships, why did they stop drinking once we weren't together anymore? And is it my fault? And it really doesn't have anything to do with you. As you said, he struggles with emotional connection. So anyway, let's keep going. We're almost.
Okay, the next one. Betrayed partner and essay here. Discovery was January of this year. Essay is in 12 step 5. That's good. And I'm active in Weetong when we were both working with our own CSATs. Full disclosure is tentatively scheduled for July. He read Out of the Doghouse, and we read Sex Addiction 101 together. He started reading Prodependence together last week. Plan is for each of us to work on our own trauma recovery before rejoining each in couples at a later time. Is this a strategy for marriage, for the marriage in the interim? So I hear like he's doing, I put in the chat, the work groups, reading the books is lovely. It's not connected, and and I'm glad he's doing 12 step. That's great. And you're doing Witron, that's great. But both of you would so benefit from those work groups. That's the psychoeducation. Many therapists, like many CSATs, recommend clients participate in those because the connection and education you get is very different than you will get, in other groups and things. So the Sex Addiction 101 starts again June 3rd. And the Betrayed Partner work group starts, May 21st. Reading books together, if it's working for you, okay. But like being so in each other's, that's my only thing. You're doing some things separately, but I'm just not 100% sure, if you're reading things together. Like I don't know. What are your thoughts, Dr. Rob?
Well, my thoughts is they bought my books. That's what I'm thinking about. And I make 12
Massive
cents.
eye roll on that
I make
one.
12 cents for every book that's sold. The rest goes to the publisher. But anyway, that's a whole different story. That's the reality. So the first thing that strikes me is, this happened in mid-January and we're only in mid-May. So what is that? I don't count well, 4
4
months ago.
months. Yeah.
So this is just all so fresh. And what I'm impressed with is that you are both learning and going to programs. Him being on step 5 already is good, but I just wonder if he's
Yay.
trying to race through it. I want to make sure he's not. But so so the only other thing is it's been very soon and your own just beginning to each starting your own journeys. And so, yes, I don't think this is a time for couples therapy, except for boundaries. If there's some issue you need to set boundaries around. But sorry, I Tam, I want because I'm thinking about negotiating the relationship, which what they're asking about. But my one question is not to answer your question is why has it been 6 months waiting for disclosure and 7 months? Just to all of you.
Oh, till July, you mean?
Yeah, I think that's a really long time. And I certainly, maybe that therapist is doing a good job. I don't know the situation, but just to say to most of you, I don't want partners suffering for 24 months or a year and a half to wait for some kind of disclosure. I think you should have a reasonable expectation. And so I just feel, and I know I'm going off in a rant again, but I feel for you partners who are told, well, in 6 months, when he understands why he did this, then you deserve to hear it sooner. So, Tammy, comments about, is there a strategy for the interim? I'm not sure what the question is, but
Healthy boundaries for you and him doing actionable things. And nothing you do or don't do is going to cause him to act out. You can't control his recovery. I'm hoping that you each have enough people and that you're not each other's support. That's what I'm reading into this, and I'm not saying it's accurate, but it's like we're reading the books together, we're doing this together, we're doing this together, and I'm going like at this point, like why are you not livid? Why are you not just
because because they're doing
Okay.
this together, and it serves a purpose, right? As long as they're
Oh,
stuck at the hip, then they don't have to step apart and really, really get angry. Plus, they have the same role, the same mission, the same. But when they start to step apart, that's when the pain is going to come. A little therapy,
okay.
thought.
No, that makes sense because I was like, that's what I wasn't catching on that. So I would invite you to really focus on your healing partner, and I'm actually, yay, he's on step 5. Like I get really frustrated when people are like, oh, I'm on step 1 and it's been a year. Like drives me crazy. So it's good. You can do it again. So like him doing it faster, it's okay. Like when they first started 12 steps, it was like they would take a newcomer and go through the steps in that, in that time frame, and then they do it again. So I don't have a problem with that aspect of it. I would love to have you, really lean into your individual support. And I would love to have you really process what your healthy boundaries are and what do you need separately, and what he can be doing to help build trust, again. But I hear he's doing good recovery work, fantastic, that honestly that's a good thing. So okay.
Yeah, one of the things that came up for me, I'm not sure why, is it would be really helpful if you want to have a communication with each other. You write down the 10 things you're doing in the week to help yourself grow. And that can be anything
Mm-hmm.
from I'm going to a run to I'm going to a friend with dinner, and also, the healthy stuff. But going to meetings and going to therapy. What are the 10 things that you were committed doing for yourself? And then for the addict, what are 10 things? And that could be going to meetings or talking to a therapist, and maybe it's 5, but to sit together and really clearly lay out, this is what I'm working on. How do you feel about it? This is what I'm working on. It just feels like the basics need to be established here before you start looking at a way of living together, or, strategy. Just start explaining to each other what you're working on. Because it feels like you're thinking too much and not actually and by the way, that's another way to avoid anger, is to read every single book. So
Yeah,
why don't we,
yeah, I was thinking that too. I was like, I would invite you to not like I appreciate it. And early on, you want to learn, and at some point, it's like just go for a walk, go to get a coffee, and like not take one of the books with you. I mean, it's like breathe, and like there needs to be life and joy outside of just this work too. I will say that more for partners.
hey,
Addicts, head down, keep doing the work. So
hey, Tammy, really quickly, would you mind sending him a link for the couples in recovery? What is that, RCA group? Because there
I will
are
look for that.
groups,
Yes.
and for all of you guys, there is a 12-step program where two members of a couple go together to those meetings, and you hear them each share about what's going on back and forth. And it's actually, I think Dr. Carnes was one of the people who founded that, but it's called Recovering Couples Anonymous, RCA.
Yes, I will look for
And
that. So yes. Yes.
thank you.
Okay, but I'm gonna read you the next question.
Oh, yeah,
So this
yeah.
is from the first one. I made a boundary that if my sex addict husband did certain things, I would leave and stay in a hotel for 3 to 5 days. I originally said I would come home during his work day to watch the kids and leave once he returned home. When I found myself having to make this boundary, he was such an asshole that I said, I'm going for 5 days and I'm not coming back until then. So you'll have to figure things out. He works remotely, so I knew it would be difficult, but that he could make it work. He went off the rails that I changed my agreed upon consequence, but I was too hurt and mad to care. Now I'm reflecting on this and wondering if it's out of line. What are your thoughts?
Um, I'll give the short version, which is, I think if you, I think I don't understand why he leaves. You
No,
know,
she left. She left because
right,
she
but
said
I'm
I
sorry, why
left
are
and he
you
had to
leaving?
figure out the
I
child
know, but
care and
it's your
everything
home,
else.
it's your family. I mean, I understand that. It feels like you're showing him a lesson. Now you look at what I have to put up with every day, and you look what I deal with, and I'm not sure what came out of that, if that was what you wanted. But and I love the fact that, what, you can do this and you can figure this out, and you don't need me every minute. So no, I don't think that you went off the rails at all. The only question about, to me, is he doesn't have to, you don't have to leave. He does. You are not respond. It's good for you to kick this person out, I think, rather than saying I'm leaving.
Yeah, and I'm gonna like I she was mad and she needed to go take care of herself, and he needed to figure out what to do with the kids. And
I like that.
we're
Every
yeah, and
woman,
honestly, no, and there are times when like if he says no, I'm not gonna leave. I can always take myself away. I can't always make somebody else leave. So like I hear you, and I hear you're doing self-care, and I'm sorry he was such an asshole. And I don't, you know, like that feels like blame shifting, that he goes, you changed the rules. And I'm like, you realize that the boundary that you needed was not going to be sufficient enough, or the consequence you made was not going to be sufficient enough, so you upped it. Rock on. I'm with you. So
Tammy, let's read the next one. There's two
okay.
more questions that I
No,
think
the
we need
other
to
one was
get
that
through.
the divorce is stalled, and we already addressed that. So the next one is
No, we
Dr.
didn't
Rob
answer
mentioned.
that. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say something about that. It doesn't surprise me that he decided to
Okay.
pursue recovery once you stalled the divorce. I just think that I wonder about the motivation, I guess is what I want to say there.
Well, yeah, she said was now for 4 months after four
Right,
years, he's embracing
right,
recovery. So she
right.
stalled
Yeah,
that. Yeah, like,
I don't feel
yes.
good. And make sure you keep your lawyer because I don't know what he's up to.
Yes,
Um,
and I would really work on healthy boundary. Like, this is not, oh, now magically after 4 months he's going to do things that, yeah. So yes, I would be
is he
very
controlling? Because I think he's
cautious. Yeah.
controlling you in this set of
Yes.
circumstance. Anyway,
Yeah.
watch your
Yeah.
back.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. Be cautious. Okay. So Dr. Rob just mentioned the formal therapeutic disclosure should happen quickly. Our D-Day was February of 2023. So it's been more than a year. It's been like 15 months. And the betrayer's therapist still says he's not ready. This is information from the therapist to my therapist, not just the addict saying this. So this is actually documented. This seems unreasonable to me. What is the reasonable time frame for disclosure in your opinion and experience?
well, this is a tricky question because there are people in the field that I really love and respect, and they're not always doing the best job. And also, as therapists, we get a lot of crap for putting other therapists down. But I can say this for you. I would not do this in this way. I think it's cruel and unproductive to leave a spouse sitting around and waiting as you've been waiting forever to find out what's really gone on in your life. And there are many therapists who don't understand the work we do. In fact, I'm doing a training on that, Tammy, which is, I don't care in my work. I've been a therapist for 30 years with a license. I've worked with all kinds of people. I've helped depressed people. I've helped angry people. I've helped people with their kids. I've done all kinds of work. And I know how to be empathic and kind and nurturing, and let's look at your past and what happened to you. And I'm so sorry. And, we can't really get to this till we get to that. And, I get all that part of being a therapist, but that's not an addiction therapist. Those of us who are trained in the addictions, we set boundaries, and we make it happen. I would never expect you to wait around, and I can only imagine how much dilly-dallying your spouse is doing while he or she has. And what do you think, by the way, is going to happen when you guys set a date and then it's going to be like, no, actually. So what I would love to see you do is find a way, and even if the therapist is doing the best job in the world, Tammy would like this. What is your boundary? Like, how long are you willing to sit around for this to happen? And I don't know if they're even living together, but so yes, it's completely unreasonable. I turn to you because you're the only one who has power over yourself to say, I can only do this for so long, and I need a date, and I need it in the next 60 days. And if he says he's not ready or he's not willing, well, that's no moves are a move. And what is he telling you then? So I don't know. It feels like there's a lot. I mean, as long as
Manipulation.
thank you. I appreciate that. And also a therapist who, with all due respect, has great compassion and kindness, but they're not really geared up for this kind of very responsible, very accountability based work. And by the way, addicts are tricky. Oh, my trauma. Sorry. It's
Well, no,
true.
but and this honestly, and I love the CSAT community, but there are CSATs that will get all spun up in this and go, oh, he's not ready. So I typed in at the bottom of the chat is our residential treatment program, and it's okay to say, he needs help getting ready because clearly what he's doing isn't enough. And I don't know what he's doing besides seeing the therapist, but that would not ever be enough. And you guys can continue in this pattern for a really long time. And I'm sorry, and that wouldn't be my preferred option. But feel free to tell your therapist or his therapist, if he's not ready by this date, then there's a residential treatment program that would welcome him and help him get ready. Because, that for guys that are stuck, that helps.
Can I just get my last piece of the sales piece, if that's okay? Is that if you don't want to spend money for treatment, if you don't want to spend money for consultations, if you don't want to spend money for whatever, or whatever it is, just remember that divorce lawyers are a lot more expensive than with that. And you don't want to look back and say, did I make a mistake? I wish I had this or that. So there you go. I'm giving a thumbs up for my field.
Yeah, she adds that they are both CSATs, and she said the boundary is 5.5 more months. They're living together now, but making plans on leaving in 5.5 months if disclosure doesn't happen. And I'm like, that seems really long and overly
Okay,
gracious to me.
I'll take another step up. Tammy, if you want to reach out to Tammy, TAMI at seekingintegrity.com for any referral or whatever, she will uh, look at maybe finding you someone else, or what were you thinking? Because I think you can help
No,
here.
but yeah, to me, this is like, have the CSATs bring it to the peer case consultation group on
Oh, that's what I was
Tuesdays.
thinking.
No, yeah, because like to me, it's like, oh, we've been 15 months and he's not ready, and then I'll tell you what, the other therapist would be going, tell us more. What's going on for him? Why would he not be ready? And the therapist, I love them. They care about their clients, and they're showing up, and they're going, like, well, I'm concerned about his whatever, and Dr. Rob will be going, what about his partner? Like, who's holding the space for her? So
Yeah, I mean,
trust me, there are resources, and and I don't know if it's coddling an addict or not, but this feels like it's not helpful for you. So, okay, that's enough.
let's send goodwill
Bye,
to all
Dr.
these
Rob.
folks. Life
Thank
is
you
hard
all
enough.
for the questions. Yes.
Bye, guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.